I thought about the title for this, and I was thinking if it was flying things in your painting, or flags, or airborne objects. But what I wanted to do today was three things. And we all think about our paintings as a scene, but when we have a scene with no people in it, this one actually has a little person in it. This was done in Venice. But when we have a scene like this, there's really no action or there's no interjection of people living in this environment. And that's one of the things that brings your paintings alive. When we were working with our last demos, not the lemons, but other times when we were walking at the beach or we were walking just now in Santa Spirito in the piazza, we need a little something that's been touched by humans. So laundry is one of the good things, and flags are great because they have to be they're normally mounted by people have to raise them on a flagpole. There could be an automatic one, I know, but flags they inject a little bit of air and sky feeling to your painting. Laundry does the same thing. And then the third thing I wanted to do was, and these are all my notebooks. I wanted to do a little bit about Italian windows. And we did windows in our piece today, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Italian windows because they're so characteristic and they really have a great look to them. And if you live in an area of the world, as I do in the Western United States, where we don't have a lot of shuttered houses unless you go into some old area in California. That means a 200-year-old area, which is nothing compared to the rest of the world. You have these wonderful shutters, these wonderful surrounds, maybe little bits of architectural detail. And then you have laundry out, which is also a sign that people live in this house and people are living in this area and having some fun. So I want to start with flags. We're going to push these away for a second. And I'll take this out of here. We're going to do something with flags. And I showed you a little bit of that when we just did our detail. But when we're working with flags, and I also have a little bit of a crib sheet on different flags. We have a French flag here, Italian flag, I believe this is Spanish, British flag. One of the tricks that you can do is a lot of fun, and I want to make sure you understand how this works. So I'm going to I think I'll work with a little bit bigger brush here. I just showed you how to put a flag. I'm going to bring this down just ever so slightly. There we go. I showed you in our painting how to put a flag into the detail of our scene. And let's take a look at that again. Here's our little flag. Here's our flag in here. And what you notice about this, and what you probably thought was curious in our painting, is that I put in gray first and colors later. And when we think about a flag, if the flag is green, white, and red, it means that we tend to think of it that way and we generalize it. But to make it look naturalistic in a painting, there's a little trick you can do. And I'm going to go into my greenish gray here, which is actually, we're going to contaminate it a little bit. I have a combination of colors here, which is a viridian, a little bit of cobalt blue. We can put a little bit of burnt sienna in this. We've got a gray, got a bluish gray. Okay. And the first thing you're going to do is actually you're going to paint the flag as a gray shape. Now you can put in a little bit of flagpole, or maybe there's something that's the ropes that are bringing the lines that are bringing the flag up. But that's your very first thing you're going to do. Now, if the flag is sitting against a building, it's going to have a shadow underneath it. So we're going to have something down here as well. Maybe this is the side of a building. We're not sure really what it is. But this being said, we're going to put a couple more of these down so I can show you different flag shapes. These are pretty light. We're making these fairly light. We'll just do our plain ones over here. And flags can also be kind of draped down a little bit, or they can be in a strange shape. We can put another flag here. We'll do a little combination. The wind is blowing, and we've got maybe another one here. When I was doing this, I was thinking maybe it's some public building. Um, First thing that came to mind, because I'm living in the United States, is the United Nations. I was also down in Cuba, um, painting with a plein air group. I taught plein air in Cuba, and in front of the embassies there, and in front of many of the buildings, the flags always stand out and look beautiful, and they cluster this way. So now your colors go on. So we're going to do an Italian flag here. So what I want you to notice is that these are still shiny, but these are now have gone a little bit drier. And I think I'm not sure if I've got another. Okay, while this is drying, I'm just going to show you something real quick. This is a flag I put in, this is an Italian piece in my notebook that I did, of course, in Venice. These are Venetian gondolas, but you can see that, I put in some of the detail, the characteristic light posts, etc. But a flag over here, this is a Venetian flag, and I did it with a little bit of carmine or a alizarin crimson and a little bit of detail in white gouache. It gives a little bit of air to the whole piece. Now, there's no laundry in here, but this flag in there just kind of gave it a little bit of levity and a little bit of movement. And you think that maybe this gondola is coming into the picture. So it gives you a little bit of life. Okay, we are just about ready here. And I'm going to actually go in. I'm going to go in with my smaller brush so I have a little bit more control. And we're going right into our color. So colors on flags are pretty much coloring book colors. They're very strong. And this green is going to go in here. Trying not to overpaint, not too many strokes. And the red is going into here. Now, if you want it to look like this, if you want it to be very sharp, that's okay. Okay? But if you want it to look kind of like it's blending into the rest of the painting, you can I don't know if this is even a word. You can smudge it a little bit. In other words, you can take a little bit of wet brush and move it ever so slightly in your painting to give it the idea that it's moving in space. Or if you're bringing in some sky and you haven't put the sky totally around it, as I did in here with an illustration, this wouldn't probably not work in a painting that has a large background already put in. But if you're doing sketching and you're working with things like this, this is what I mean. You've got the area here where it looks a little blurry around the flag, and here's a second flag here, just kind of floating in the wind. You've got a little bit of blue that comes in here and hits right onto that green. This is better for sketching activities. But we've got a little bit of airspace going around here, around our flag, as I have up in here. Very, very light. Now let's do another flag over here. We will do a French flag. So again, same idea. We've got this here. We've got our blue that's going on here. And then the red on here. And again, you can smudge these edges just ever so slightly to get that. That can be within your painting, okay? Now, let me show you a little bit of the detailing. The detailing, we'll wait a second because these are still fairly wet. Um, I want to do a British flag. I hope I do it well. I think I'll, I think I'll actually bring this. I'd like to bring this out a little bit so that this one is in front of the other flag. But while that's drying, I'm going to show you a little bit of detailing. So with your white gouache, if you wanted to have a look of a real flag, you can put a bit of white back into it. But if you simply think, okay, this is a red, white, and blue, or this is a red, white, and blue, or this is a green, white, and red, and this is blue, white, and red, I'm sorry. American flag is red, white, and blue. They You only want a little bit of white added in, and let me show you how you would do that. So rather than putting the white in the whole area, because that's what we think, just like when we paint, we think trees are green and the ocean is blue and the sky is blue, and you know, you really want to think, how's it going to look in my painting? So in this case, this is still a little dry here. We can bring in a little bit of light on the top, and we can bring in a little bit of white on here. And you can drag it ever so slightly. Tap my brush down. Bring in my towel over here so you can see how often I tamp. And again, here with my French flag, I can bring a little bit of white into here, but you're not making the flag have a white edge. And you can go in here and we want a little bit of more solidity to this flagpole. We can bring in that a little more clearly. And maybe things are blowing around, maybe the lines or ropes are blowing just a little bit. And if it sinks too much into your gray area, then you're going to be putting some red right over, as I did with my last figure. And here's my flag. Let's see if we can see that. Is that nice and clear? Yeah, that looks pretty clear. Now we do a British flag. This one's a little, has a lot more of smaller shapes in it, so it's a little bit harder to do in terms of getting everything so it doesn't run. This now is, I think it's slightly damp. And then across here. Then you're going to put your ultramarine blue in there. Flags are wonderful. They really are. They liven up a whole piece. Now this one is still a little wet. We're going to put a little bit of dark in here just real quick while we're waiting for that guy to dry. There we go. And we'll do a little bit of detailing on here. Now we've got our blue coming in here. We want to show a little bit of that gray because we don't want to paint all of that out. Even though there is no real gray in the flag, it's going to appear as a part of shadow of the white, and that's what we want to have happen. And we can, if we have time here, we can go back in. We can do a little bit of our, going into my dark here. Gonna go a little bit of a flagpole. And this is pretty wet, but we're still gonna go in there. Hopefully this won't drag on that. We've got little bits of white here. And you're not gonna really see all of it. You don't want to match it on the gray line, but you're going to match it up into here and kind of bring it down here. So you want the illusion that the white's there, but your eye is not really focusing on it. That's kind of what I wanted to say with this. And we're going to bring white here. Hope I'm doing this justice. Let me just check on my, let me check on my flag picture here. You can see I had a little thing on my phone. It was my flags of Europe. There I go. Oop. And I've got the UK right here. And those white lines meet up here. And a little bit of white on that side. Okay. Now, again, you want to create an illusion here. So you're kind of pushing that shape into the background because you just want that to show, you just want it to show as maybe there's a shadow down here, just as something in your painting which doesn't have a very defined edge. So I hope that helps with flags. You could, if you don't know flags of a country, you can easily look up online different types of flags. But this is kind of the idea of what you want for blowing shapes and shapes of flags in pieces. Now let me show you a little bit. We're going to move right on to something else that's floating into your pieces, and this will be laundry. So if you'd like to take a screenshot of that before I put that away, you're welcome to do that. Okay, we'll put that to the side. Okay, and we'll put our, okay. Now, this is the top part of one of my paintings. Laundry is fantastic. And one of the things that is fabulous in Italy, and particularly where I stay in Venice, is Italian laundry. And that's one of the things that I love to do. I love to do that in larger pieces. This is another one with some teeny laundry in it. Laundry is great because also if you're looking back into a canal area, you have laundry that's specific here. And here in this painting, I've got a little lady who's hanging out the socks. And then the laundry gets smaller in the background, so it creates the illusion of depth, which is a lot of fun. And let me give you one last little sketch. This was a sketch that I did originally for that piece, which shows a lot of the laundry here in the foreground. Now, the things we want to think about laundry that are very important. Gravity matters. So when you're working with laundry, you want to make sure that you have things that are actually hanging in the direction that you want. Is it a windy day? Is it a very calm day? Looks like a very calm day. And the first thing you want to do is probably, and I'm going to have my line here. I think I'll do that with a brush so you can see it. You can't see a pencil on here. One of the things that happens in working with laundry lines. That would be the same thing as the flags. We're gonna, that was a very thin brush that I have. It's a brush that has a belly here and a very long tip, and I use that for doing lines of all kinds, but we'll make the laundry a little bit bigger. One of the things you want to do, and I didn't do this in my sketch because I'm just working very quickly on my sketch, and let me just come in here very fast and show you. We'll go over here. You can see that I've sketched in, but if I really wanted to get the idea that this is shadows and then maybe there's some shadow shapes on here, I want to do exactly what I did with my flags by putting in a gray shape of laundry first and then putting the color over top of it. So let's see how that goes. We're going to come back out. Okay, and we are focused. So in this case, we've got t-shirts, and I'm going to be using a kind of a bluish grayish color. And my t-shirts are hanging down here. And maybe I have some pins on here. And maybe the bottom part of the arms are hanging down. And maybe this person has also put out some socks. Let's come in a little bit closer. There we go. That's probably a little better for you. And maybe there's another t-shirt here or another shirt. We'll do a pair of pants. So we definitely, all things are hanging in one direction. One of the things I found fascinating with Venice, particularly when I paint in Venice, Italy, is you know what the day is going to be by how much laundry is outside of any given house, especially in the areas that I stay in. So if there's a lot of laundry out, we'll put some more socks here. That means it's going to be a very, very beautiful day. And if you see just a few things that are nestled down by the side of the building, you know that by the next hour or two, it might rain a little bit because that laundry is going to be pulled back in. So let's do on the wet gray. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put the stripes, let's say, back into the shirt. And maybe we're going to take and put I was going to make red socks. Nobody wears red socks in in Italy. We're going to put a little bit of blue over top of here. And that's just like we did with our flags into the wet area. And maybe we'll put a little bit yellow ochre over top of these. And we're going to make these pants. I think we'll make these cerulean blue as well. Now the gray acts as a base here and also gives you a foundation of shape. And you want to go fairly quickly with this. And then we're going to put some pins in here if you want some pins. And usually pins, the pins are usually a color: green, orange, yellow, blue. It's going to add a lot of life to your painting. It's a lot of fun to do this. Really is. And you can put in we can put a little bit of a red pin in here. Oop. And usually there's a green pin. They always sell green plastic. There we go. So that looks a little more naturalistic. Now, if you want to put white in, like we do with our flags, you do the same thing. So let's come in, we'll come in even a little bit more here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Here's our guys here. So if we want white on here, we're going to go do the same method we did with our flags. We're going to go ahead and tip into our white gouache. This is designer's gouache, Winsor& Newton permanent white. And we're going to come in with it just kind of a little bit crunchy on one side. And maybe the light is hitting where the little bit of the shirt shape is. And maybe not all of it. And then on the pants, there might be a buckle on here or something on the edge that you could fix. That would be kind of fun. All this brings life to your painting. This is one of the things that I think I find fascinating in an area that has a lot of stuff because um, I grew up with clotheslines. I grew up on the East Coast of the United States, um, in the country, and we always had a clothesline. The sheets smelled great when you had them outside. It brings a little bit of levity again as we're talking to the whole piece. Now, you want to remember if you have shadows, they're going to be put onto the building before you do all your color on top. So that's the other little trick you want to do. If things are blowing, it's going to go in one direction. Okay, last thing we're going to do. So we did flags, we did a little bit of laundry. Let's look at our laundry again, just real quickly. Let me show you this one. This is what I wanted to show you. So this one actually was painted. I wanted to show you that these were white sheets that were painted, that I painted all around here and then put gray in the center so it looks like the shadow on a white shape. But that was the way I did this one. The ones at the top here, these little guys hanging down. Um, I think some of these are fun. These were done. The other thing is you can put in your laundry after you get your sky in. If you go, oh my gosh, I need some activity in the sky. I forgot something up here. You can go ahead and put white gouache across your sky area and then paint your colors on top of that. And even in this area, I wanted a little bit of lightening up in this dark shape of the shadow shape of the building. And I put white gouache down here and then put a little bit of color on that. I can show you that maybe at another time, but this is easy to do. White gouache on here, a little bit of, you want this to dry and then put some color right over it, and it doesn't bleed at all. So last thing we're going to do is we're going to do birds. And we are going to have a little bit of, we're going to do a little bit with the birds. We're going to have some birds flying in the sky up here. And I wanted to show you birds. We're going to have some birds flying above the clothesline. As I said, birds add a little bit of levity to any painting. There could even be a bird on a wire. And pardon me if sometimes these look a little bit like velociraptors. A little bit of a bird on here. And maybe there's a second bird on here. The second one looks like a parrot. There he goes. Okay, so these guys were little birds on the wire. This is our building over here. It's our building on the side. And birds can come in. You make a kind of a soft gray. You can have them going down into the background. And they really are a lot of fun to put into your paintings. And they add a little bit of levity. Now remember, You want these birds to look like they are not eyebrows. So the bird shape might come this direction, and there might be smaller ones behind him, and there might be ones that are dotted behind here. And in Venice, a lot of birds come down, and maybe there could be a lot in the sky. We could have another bird on here sitting out this area. They rarely sit this close to the buildings. But if they look too gray for you, what you can do as you finish up, you can take a little bit of burnt sienna and in the wet bird, just kind of pop a little bit of color in that. Or you can take a little bit of cerulean blue and put over top of that. That gives a little bit of darkening in that area. Now, if we had a bird, this were an imaginary scene, and we had a bird sitting on the ground like I did in the last painting, we would have, I think this painting's getting a little odd here, but we can bring this across. This is the bottom. We'll make this the bottom of our little scape that we have here. Put a little bit across here. A little bit of background connecting this all here. And we're going to have a little bird that's going to be sitting. He's going to be sitting, let's see, he's going to be sitting right here. He's landed. It's going to have a little bit of a shadow shape in here. Maybe this guy's going to be on here. And we're again going to put a little bit of dark into him. And we're going to give him a little bit of shadow underneath. That could be a little cerulean. There he is. And maybe there's some shadow down on the ground here. We don't quite know what that is. And what we didn't have is we didn't have any sky in here. So let's put a little bit of color, just a tiny bit of color up into the sky. This is just like a sketch, and that can go right over my birds. Just a sketch, just a little fun. And a little bit of atmosphere. And maybe if there's some buildings in the background we don't know about. Not real sure what this is in the background. Blue down. And if you skip some spots, that looks like clouds. And it's kind of fun. Gives a little bit of atmosphere. So rather than painting from the background out, just have some fun with your shapes. So we did birds, we did flags. Bring my flags back. We'll move out. We did our flags, we did our laundry, and we did our birds. And those can all add elements of surprise and interest in your paintings. So have some fun with this.